Hi, everyone. This is Attorney Lilian, and today you are in for a treat. We'll be talking about recent immigration changes. Okay, we are going to be going over what's going to be changing with USCIS, with the consulates, what's going to be staying the same. That's another thing, and what to look forward to. Okay, there's been a few changes in the past few months, and we're gonna go over all of that, and hopefully you'll leave this informed and ready to basically tackle all the changes that are coming with USCIS and immigration in general. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm Lilian Chukura. Like I said, I'm an immigration lawyer based in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I am able to represent clients from all over the US and all over the world. And that's kind of for the past 5 years, that's what I've been doing, and that's what I enjoy. So we're going to get right into it and start with welcoming Faith to the program. I'm so glad you're here, and I hope you find this helpful and you share it with your community, because this is something that immigration is something that's continuously changing, and we want to make sure that everyone knows what's going on and is able to stay informed. So thank you, Faith, for joining. So the first major change, and something that everyone, and when I say everyone, everyone that calls me, all my clients, the first question they ask me is USCIS, which is the immigration agency in the US that handles interviews for green cards, citizenship, all of that. Are they starting to do interviews? And the answer to that question is yes. Yes, they are. They are starting to do interviews again, which means if your case has been pending and you were just waiting for an interview date to be scheduled, well, you have something to look forward to. They are now scheduling those interviews, and your interview date might be coming up soon. So if you had an interview date, but it was canceled due to the pandemic, you might be getting a new interview appointment in the mail. So keep an eye out for that if that's what you're waiting on. Now, you also have to be patient. Remember, before this, when you go to a USCIS office for an interview, there will be like 100 people waiting to be interviewed. And they can't do that anymore. They can't have 100 people in the waiting room because of COVID regulations. So now they have to basically stagger their interviews and make sure there's enough space for social distancing, make sure that the rooms are not crowded. So because of that, there's going to be fewer interviews every single day. So you just have to be patient, but know that they are scheduling interviews again, which is a big, big thing, which is a big change from the past few months, because since March, they haven't really been scheduling interviews, and they've had to cancel a whole lot of interviews. So they're kind of getting back into the groove of things, and we just have to be patient and let them schedule those interviews. However, one thing that I would say is, for citizenship interviews, they have been doing something that they have actually not done since I've been practicing, which is doing same day naturalization ceremonies. So typically, when you go for your citizenship interview, you do the whole process. The officer tells you, great, I'm going to approve your case. You're going to get a letter in the mail telling you what date to go in for the actual naturalization ceremony, which is usually done by a judge, right? In this big, elaborate activity that's done. Well, they can't do that anymore. They can't have a whole bunch of people in a crowded room anymore. So what they have been doing is they are doing same day ceremonies. So you go in for your interview. I'll actually tell you one that I did last week, which is we went in for an interview at 10:30. By 12 o'clock, my client was already a citizen with the certificate and everything. So that it has been a good change from what it was before. Before, she would have had to go home, wait for a date to be scheduled, then go in for that. Now we went in 10:30 for the interview. By 12 o'clock, she had her certificate. She was good to go. She could go register to vote. Like it's so much, it's more efficient that way. It makes it even better. So that's something, if you're holding up on citizenship applications, this is the time to do it because they are really moving those along. Especially in Massachusetts, you can get an interview 4 to 6 months. Other places it's a little longer, but I can tell you that I filed one in April and we have an interview at the end of this month. So it stopped, it is moving. So Pauline is asking if the in, if the ceremony, the same day ceremony was done by a judge. No, it wasn't. So what happened with the pandemic? Basically, the Supreme Judicial Court in Massachusetts, which governs lawyers, judges, all of that, they basically deputized immigration officers to be able to do these in same day. So typically, immigration officers do not have the power to basically swear people in to become citizens, but the the judges in Massachusetts has given them, basically deputized them to be able to do those things. So it has been a game changer for a lot of my clients because now you don't really have to wait. It's made stuff a lot more efficient. But yeah, it's typically done by judges, but because of the pandemic, judges are not able to do them. And now the immigration officers are deputized to do them, which makes it way more efficient than waiting for a judge to come in and do that. So the next question I usually get is, are the embassies open? Are they doing interviews? Well, as of right now, most US embassies are unfortunately still closed except for emergency cases. And that's something that we do not have a timeline for of when that will change. So this is it goes country by country. Some countries in Europe and Asia have opened up and started scheduling interviews, but most countries in Africa have not started scheduling interviews. So I can tell you that the Kenyan embassy, the Nigerian embassy, and the Ghanaian embassy are still not open. Those are the ones that I have checked on in the past week, and they are still not open to anything but emergency cases. So if your case doesn't fall in that emergency category, you are not going to be getting a date yet. So, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be filing your case, right? Typically, if you're filing for a family member that's outside the US, there's 2 steps to the process. The first step is handled in the US by USCIS. The second step is handled by the embassy in the person's country. So you want to get started with the part that USCIS does, because the consulate or the embassy will not be able to schedule that interview until USCIS approves their part. So you want to get started with your process. Do not wait until the embassies are back open to start that. So you really want to make sure that you get that process started so that you will at least be in line for an interview. Okay, so those are the 2 first questions that I get, which is USCIS open? Yes, they are, and they're scheduling interviews, but it might take a little longer for you to actually get that interview date due to regulations around social distancing. Are the embassies open yet? Most embassies are not. except for emergencies, but you should still move forward with filing your case just to get yourself in line for the interview. You don't want to wait until they open to do that. So I just want to stop there and thank everyone for joining us today. I really appreciate you being here. If you have found this helpful so far, please feel free to share it because if you found it helpful, I'm sure people in your network will also find this helpful. And if you have any questions, it can be about recent changes. It can be anything regarding immigration law. Please feel free to put it in the comments and I will answer them right here live, and we will basically continue going. So Amelia is asking, when will embassies open? Unfortunately, we do not know yet. So it's going country by country. They do not have a timeline for when they will reopen. It really depends on the country and their COVID-19 response. But there's no date for all embassies to open, for example. So it's really going country by country, embassy by embassy at this point. So because of that, we don't have a date for the embassies to open. But I will keep an eye on that. Once embassies start opening more, I will inform everyone that, feel free to join my Facebook page. So that way, when I get these updates on which embassies are back open, I will definitely post it there so that people are informed and know when they can start applying for things again. If you're not in the US and you want to apply for a visiting visa, for example, all of that goes through the embassy. So I know that there's a few people that follow my page that are outside of the US. So I do keep an eye on that for you so that you know when you're able to basically start applying for the non-immigrant visas again. So that is the answer to that. So we're going to go to the next set of updates. Okay, these are not fun updates. These are not, the next few updates are not updates that I want to be giving you, but they are things that are going on and you should be well aware of. Okay, so 1 second. I'm gonna get to your questions right now. So have you had any client who filed for the special librarian DED status interviewed and approved? So typically, I'm guessing you're talking about the green card that's available to librarians that have been in the US since November 2014. So those are still being processed. So the first one I filed was in January, and those are still being processed. Typically, a green card application takes between a year and a half to be processed and approved or scheduled for an interview. So I wasn't expecting it to be approved or scheduled for an interview within this time frame, especially with COVID and everything going on with that. But that is still, so those are still being processed. But I will update you guys when that changes. Once I get the first approval, I will definitely keep you guys updated on that. Okay. Let's see. Is there any delay with the K-1 visa process for applicants outside USA? So yes, the delay in that is getting the interview at the embassy. So basically, the first part is filed in the US and USCIS has to approve it, and then it moves to the embassy for them to schedule an interview. Because the embassies are not open, and typically when a green card, when a fiance visa, which is what the K-1 visa is, when a fiance visa is approved in the US, there's a limited amount of time that you have usually 4 months to get the whole process done. So right now they're not really pushing the approvals because they know there's a limited amount of time that you have to process those, and then you have to revalidate those approvals. So it's better for them to hold off on approving it and wait for the embassies to reopen. So that is the delay going on right now. But my guess is once the embassies open back up, those will be processed regularly. But right now, they are being delayed significantly because of COVID. Okay, let's see. Angel asks, I want to adopt a child in Africa. How does it work? Because I don't want to go there, but like to do the process here. Okay, so this is a question I get a lot, and I'm probably going to dedicate a whole live to adoptions because this is it's really complicated, and it depends a lot on the country you're adopting from, and the child that you're adopting, right? If you already have a child in mind, the process is a little different than if you don't. So if it's a Hague Convention country, which if you're adopting from Africa, most African countries are not Hague Convention countries. However, Ghana, for example, is a Hague Convention country. So now the process is different than for, let's say, Liberia or Nigeria. Typically, to apply for an adopted child, there's three processes, three different ways to do that. But what really matters is where the child is and the child's status. So if the child is an orphan, there's a completely different process, which is very similar to the Hague Convention countries, which means you have to go through a service provider, so an adoption provider that's authorized by the US. This process can take time, and it does require you to invest a significant amount of money to go through that process to make that happen, especially if you say you don't want to go there. That would be the best way for you to go through the process is with that service provider. But like I said, feel free to give me a call, and we can go into more detail about adoption and what to expect and what you need to do in order to make sure that once you adopt the child, that you can actually bring the child to the US, because those are two different things. You can adopt a child in Africa, for example, but they wouldn't qualify to come to the US because maybe you didn't go through the process properly, or the child was already over 16. There's all these regulations, and will, like I said, it will take a whole other life for me to go through adoption and what's required. But feel free to give me a call, and we can basically go through, all of those requirements for you. Let's see. The problem some immigrants are faced with now is during interview, those females who lied and said they never had kids are seeing it difficult to get citizenship. Some of them are threatened deportation. What can be done to remedy this situation? Okay, so Tomwell, you are basically, this is one of the biggest issues that I'm seeing with immigration right now. I do get a lot of clients in that have these questions and that have these issues. And for people that don't understand where this question is coming from. So if you are applying for and the situation that this usually happens in is when someone applies for the diversity visa, right? And there's this misconception, especially in African countries, that if you put that you're married or if you put that you have children, you will not be selected for the lottery. This is not true. Okay, I am evidence that this is not true, because for example, when my father applied for the lottery, he included that he had 2 children and a wife, and he still got the visa. Okay, so um, I really want people to know that you do not have to say that you don't have children in order to be selected for the visa lottery, because people do it all the time. So what can be done? Unfortunately, there's not a lot that can be done. If you apply for citizenship, so in order to qualify for citizenship, you have to have qualified for the green card when you received it. And if you do not qualify for the green card, then you cannot apply for citizenship. So typically, I will screen people for this. If you didn't put it on your application and you didn't tell the officer at your interview, there's not a lot that can be done to fix it on that end, right? At the interview stage, there's not a lot that can be done to fix it there. However, you do have other options. So if you are put in deep, he says some of them are threatened with deportation. So with deportation, for example, you are put in court. So you still have a chance in immigration court to plead your case, to explain why you shouldn't be deported. And some of that comes in with a waiver, because you have been a green card holder. Now there's a waiver, a special waiver available for green card holders that may have had some misrepresentation on their visa application or at any point with immigration. Okay, so it's not just because you don't qualify for citizenship or you're put in deportation proceedings does not mean that's the end of it. There's still options available to you. There's still things that can be done to protect your citizenship. So to protect your green card and potentially get you to citizenship. So it is not the end of the world, but do contact an immigration lawyer if you're in this situation before you apply for citizenship. Make sure that you contact an immigration lawyer. If you want our phone number, it is rolling on the bottom of the screen right now. So feel free to give us a call and we can basically figure out the best way to get you to citizenship. Okay, so let's go to the next questions. And I just want to, before I get to this question, I just want to thank everyone for joining me today and for asking your questions. I am very, very happy about that. And like I said, this is the reason I'm here. I'm here to answer your questions. Even if you're watching this on the replay and you have questions that come up, feel free to put it in the comments. I am happy to answer you afterwards, okay? Let's see. Dice asks, a brother applied for his sister 10 years later, USCIS approved her visa. Is there a timeline for her to process her case? So typically, when USCIS approves it, they send it to the National Visa Center. Once you get the welcome letter telling you that your case is officially with the National Visa Center, you have 1 year to basically get that process started, the visa process started. If you are not ready to basically complete the process in a year, what you can do is contact the National Visa Center and tell them that you're still interested in continuing with your visa, even though you haven't met the 1 year deadline. So if you contact them, you get another year. So you have to make sure that you keep contacting them, or they will they will basically cancel your case. So it's very important that if you have been approved and you've gotten the welcome letter from the National Visa Center to start the visa process, that you contact them every single year so that you can continue. Okay. Let's see. What are some cons that can affect your green card application? Okay, so Faith, this really depends on what you're getting your green card through, if it's from a spouse, children. Um, so I can't really answer this question because it's very broad. So if you want, you can just give me specifics of what exactly you mean by green card application. So is it through a spouse? And then I can give you a response on that. So feel free to just go, let me know in the comments exactly what you specifically mean. So let's see. So Gibson asks, what does it mean if the citizenship application update says 17 days to wait? Huh. So I haven't seen that. So you mean after you applied and you know, I just want to make sure I understand. So you have applied, the person has applied for citizenship and they go to the case status and they basically put in their case number and it says 17 days to wait. I haven't seen that status yet, but usually it might mean, depending on when the person applied, for example, it might mean that they're waiting to schedule an interview. Um, or if it's after the interview, it might be for the, hmm, it might also be for the naturalization to be um, the actual certificate to be processed. But it really depends on where in the process the person is with their citizenship application. But feel free to either call our office or send us a message with more detail. And okay, so that might mean that to wait to get an update. Typically, sometimes it will just tell you what the update is, but maybe they haven't actually processed it enough to give you an update, and they're just letting you know that you have to wait that long to get the update from the last update that they gave. So it might be that. So it also depends on, like I said, there's two things. It could be that, or it could be 17 days to wait for an interview to be scheduled. So I would say to keep an eye on that, and feel free to either give us a call or send us a message, and we can try to figure out exactly what that means for you. Okay. Let's see. Is there, so Eve asks again, is there any delay in obtaining a citizenship now? So right now, there's really, the delay is in getting the interview scheduled. So basically, because they can't have as many interviews in a day because of social distancing as they usually would, it's just going to take a bit longer for them to schedule everyone. But what I can tell you is that an application that I filed in April already has an interview for the end of the month. So they are processing those, at least in Massachusetts, they are scheduling those interviews. So there's not really, I'm not seeing a lot of delays once they started scheduling the interviews. So definitely apply or keep an eye on that, because you might be, if you already applied, you might be getting an interview notice soon. Again, depending on where exactly you live. So, okay, so I'm gonna go back to Faith's question. So she's asking, because she clarified, she's asking, what are some of the cons that can affect your marriage-based green card application? So the biggest thing that can affect your case is if you are, let's see, if you and your spouse cannot show your marital relationship. That's really number one, right? If you and your spouse cannot show that you live in the same household, that you are basically planning a life together, that's definitely going to affect your case. Another thing that is a pitfall that people usually have is that, if they've ever applied for a visa to the US and they put information in there, because another thing, just like the person that asked about women that come to the US and put on their application that they don't have children. There's also a group of people that come to the US and say that they have a spouse or children, and they actually do not. So that's another thing that ends up coming up at a green card interview or at the green card stage of you basically being in the US. So those are the main two things, is making sure that your applications are basically in sync, that there's no applications you filed that you put one information and then on this one you didn't put the same information. That's something that will greatly affect your case. And then if you cannot show your marital relationship, that will definitely affect your case. So those are the main pitfalls that people usually fall into with marriage-based green cards. All right. Okay. Hi. So what are some of the changes I just joined? Okay. So I'm just going to go over the changes before I get to the other questions. So the main changes that we have talked about is, one, USCIS is open and doing interviews again, and the embassies are still mostly doing emergency cases right now. Okay, but some embassies, as especially in Europe and Asia, are starting to open up again and doing interviews. Most embassies in Africa are still closed except for emergencies only. So those are the updates that I have given so far. The comments are coming in, the questions are coming in. So I just want to cover, go through some of the questions and then get back to the updates, because there are a couple updates that I really want to get to. Okay. Edward asks, can a US citizen file for a family member whose status is expired in the UK? So it depends on the family member. You can file for, a US citizen can file for parents, spouse, children, and siblings. You can file for them. Their status in the UK doesn't really affect whether they can come, get citizenship or a green card in the US. US really cares more. So it matters more if the person is coming here for a visit. They will most likely not be able to get a visiting visa to the US if they have an expired status in the UK. But if they are, okay, you said a father, if they are coming here to stay permanently, which is getting the green card, then their expired status in the UK would only technically affect whether they can go for their interview in the UK or if they have to go to their home country and go for that interview. So that's where that would really matter. But whether you can file for them, it doesn't matter their status in the UK. Okay, let's see. Yep. So I answered that. Okay, so John asks, a friend divorced her wife before second stroke interview. Okay, the interview date is 20th of this month. Please, what can he do on interview date? Okay, so I can't really answer this question. I need more information to be able to answer this question. I would suggest that the person call our office as soon as possible for us to basically go through what's, actually know what's going on with their case and know what can be done at this point. So definitely have the person reach out to us, and we can see how we can help them, especially with a second interview date coming up so soon. They definitely should be reaching out to an immigration lawyer and not trying to handle this themselves. Okay, thank you. Let's see. How many years do you have to spend before obtaining your citizenship? So you have to, it depends. If you got your green card through marriage and you're still in that marital relationship, you can apply for citizenship after 3 years of having your green card. Everyone else, is 5 years. So you have to have your green card for 5 years generally before you can apply for citizenship. Okay. So speaking of citizenship, I'll go to the next update that is, you know, going on right now. And I want everyone to know this, okay? Immigration fees are going up. They are going up October 2nd of this year. So if you have been putting off applying for citizenship, applying for your spouse, anything like that, and finances are one of those things that are stopping you, this is really the time to apply. You want to apply before this date so that you will get the, well, reduced fee. This is a definite thing that's going to happen. It's now going to go down. It's going to, they announced this fee increase. There was a comment period. This is a final rule. It's now going to go down. They're not looking to change it. Even though we're in the middle of a pandemic, the fees are still going to go up. So I just want to bring that to your attention. So citizenship application fees will increase from $640 to $1,170. So like I said, this is the time to apply if you qualify for citizenship and you have just been holding off for one reason or another. Definitely, if there's a reason other than financial that you're not applying for citizenship, definitely reach out to our office. We can, go over whether you qualify or anything that could raise a red flag on your case. But this is something that is definitely happening October 2nd. The citizenship application fees are increasing by almost 100%. So let's, I want you to share this so that people know if you were planning on filing in October, it might be better for you to file now, just to save yourself that fee. So for people applying through a spouse, so you're married to a US citizen and your husband or your wife wants to file for you, the fee right now is $1,760 to apply through a spouse. That's the fee for the relative petition, the green card application, the work authorization, and the travel permit. So 4 different applications, you are paying $1,760. Technically, the $1,760 is only a fee for 2 applications. It's for the relative petition and the green card applications. The other 2, the work authorization and the travel permit, is just included because you're filing for it all at the same time. They include it. However, moving forward after October 2nd, they're not going to include it. It's going to be separate fees. So you will have to pay for the relative petition, the green card application, the work authorization, and the travel permit. You have to pay for all of those 4 things on their own. So for each application you file, you pay the fee that's associated with it. So it's going to go up by over $1,000. So basically what you're spending to get your green card, work authorization, and travel permit is going to go up by over $1,000. So if you, like I said before, if you are planning on filing and you have been holding off, listen, this might be the time for you to do this. So, okay, so those are the next few updates, and I'm just gonna go into the questions and then go to the next set of updates. Okay. So Taylor is asking the best time to call. So I'm in Eastern Standard Time. So our office is open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we're closed on holidays. So Monday's a holiday and we are going to be closed. However, feel free to send us a message. We can definitely schedule a time to call you back. So feel free to give us a call. like I said, Monday through Friday, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. except for holidays. Okay, so this is a question I get all the time. Thank you, Love, um, for asking this question. Can U.S. citizens invite a friend for a visit? Yes. So it's okay. I just want to preface this by saying whether you invite the person or not doesn't really matter that much. Unfortunately, it doesn't. If the person does not qualify for the visa, whether you invite them, whether you don't, it doesn't really matter. They have to actually qualify for the visiting visa on their own merits. If they do not qualify, your invitation does not matter. However, if they qualify, your invitation will then help boost it by showing what they're coming to the US for, who they're staying with, and who's going to cover their expenses if you're going to be doing that. But if they don't qualify for the visa itself, it doesn't matter if you send the invitation or not. So to qualify for a visa, you need to be able to show that you have sufficient ties to your home country. This means you need to be able to show that after you come to the US, you're actually going to leave. You have reasons to leave, like a job, a family, business, things like that. You definitely have to be able to show those things in order to get that visiting visa. If you're not able to show those things, you're not going to qualify for the visa, whether you have the invitation from a US citizen or not. So I hope that answers your question. Oh, thank you, Gibson, for exactly what I said. Thank you for answering that. I'm so glad. Like, I want you guys to really help each other in the comments. This is, what I want to create here is a community of immigrants helping each other. So if, feel free to go in the comments and talk to each other. We are going to um, get through this immigration craziness together. Okay, so Eve, how much do you charge for citizenship? So my fee depends on case type, if there's any issues, things like that. So typically I would have a consultation with a person before telling them a fee. Immigration for citizenship, I can give you a range between 1,000 and 2,000 depending on your specific case. So that's the range that you're looking at for that. And that does not include the filing fees. Let's see. So Lauren says, I'm still 10 months away from citizenship. Can I apply now? Unfortunately, you cannot. Typically for citizenship, you have to wait till you're within, most of the time you have to wait till you're within 6 months before you can apply. And most of the time, something else to keep in mind is there's a certain number of days you have to have been physically in the US to apply. So if 6 months before you're ready, your 5 years, you haven't hit that number of days, you still wouldn't be able to apply 6 months out. You would have to wait till you hit those number of days. But if you have, so some people, they will come to the US and they actually never leave for 5 years. So if that is you, typically you will be able to apply within 6 months of that. So let's see. So that's saying, what if your spouse does not want to be citizen? Are you going to be denied filing in for your citizenship? So citizenship is individual. If you have a green card and you have been here for 5 years, you qualify for citizenship. Most of the time, this question comes up when a couple apply for the diversity visa lottery and they come together on that. It doesn't matter if you're coming in together, if you got your green card on the same day, it doesn't matter. Citizenship is an individual journey. So if your spouse doesn't want to become a citizen and you do and you qualify for citizenship, you are okay to apply for your citizenship. Let's see. What about inviting mother-in-law? Again, um, the same thing would apply as inviting a friend. The mother-in-law will need to meet those same requirements of showing significant ties to their home country. I have had a situation where the mother-in-law was coming to help after basically the wife had a child and had a lot of complications, and with medical records and the benefits of the mother-in-law coming here, we were able to make that happen, even though the mother-in-law didn't have a job, business, or anything else like that showing significant ties. But it is very but the same rules apply unless there's some exigent circumstances that we can show that humanitarian reason to still approve um, approve the visa. But most of the time, you still have to meet that requirement. Okay. Thank you, Gibson. I'm so happy you're answering these in there. What is the process of getting a fiance visa? So the person has to be a U.S. citizen. That's number one. You have to apply for the visa, the first part here, wait for that to be approved, and then file for the actual application to get the visa. The fiance goes to the interview and then gets approved. Once they're approved, they get the visa. They can come into the U.S. Within 90 days of being in the U.S., you have to get married, and then you can apply for a green card. But you still have to show the same type of relationship documentation as if you were married. So you have to show that you've seen each other within the past 2 years. This is done by flight tickets, pictures, things like that. But that is a requirement for fiance visas. You have to have seen each other in person within the past 2 years. Okay. Did immigration start calling people for interview on green card in Connecticut? In Connecticut, I'm not sure how many they're doing yet. Like I said, they are really having to stagger interviews. They're not doing the same amount of interviews that they were doing before, but they are slowly doing those. There is a preference for citizenship interviews because those are usually for one person. So the green card interviews are for you and your spouse if you're filing through a spouse. So those are less, those are being scheduled less than citizenship interviews right now, but they are starting to get into the groove of scheduling those interviews. Okay, so a permanent residence, what I need to do to apply for my wife. So it depends where your wife is. If your wife is in the US and it's out of status, you might want to call my office to see exactly how you can apply for her if she's already out of status in the US. However, if she is outside of the US, you can get started with the first process in the hopes that the embassies will open up and you will be able to finish that process. But definitely, if the person is in the US and is out of status and you're just a permanent resident, I'll definitely suggest calling our office because it complicates things. Once you become a citizen, it wouldn't matter if they're out of status, but as long as you're a permanent resident, it does matter. Okay, let's see. Dice asks, husband and wife came to the US years ago on visiting visa. They applied for political asylum. They were denied. They received a deportation order from a judge. Husband self-deported. Okay. Wife decided to stay here with the kids. She has been here ever since. What are her options? So, okay. So, one, I need more information. But in general, what I can say is, what are her options? It depends on what she has going on right now. Typically, if there's a deportation order, you can't really apply for anything with USCIS as far as green cards are concerned without reopening the deportation case. But again, it depends on the person's particular situation. If they're applying through a family member, or if they have a family member able to file for them, if they've qualified for other types of visa that waives certain things. So I would suggest the person giving me a call, and we will be able to basically figure out what they could qualify for and how we can help them. But based on the information you've given me, one thing that I can spot is that they will most likely need to reopen the deportation case before they can get a green card. Again, depending on what they qualify for, there are certain situations where that wouldn't be necessary. Let's see, what about student visa? So can you explain exactly what you mean? What about student visas? Do you mean if they're being processed? Student visas are usually done at the embassy unless the person is in the US on another status and wants to switch over to student visa. So since the embassies are closed, those are not happening right now. Okay, I'm not sure. File for alien spouse visa. I guess it's K1 or K2. So K1 is for the fiance, and K2 is for a spouse of a U.S. citizen that's already applying for an I-130 and just wants to get here a little quicker. I-130 for a mother. So I'm guessing a mother of a U.S. citizen, right? Again, I need more clarification on what exactly you're asking about. Only U.S. citizens can apply for their parents. So if there's any, if you can be a little more specific, I will be able to answer your question. But I'm not clear on what you're asking with that. Let's see. If your spouse is married to a different man, came to the U.S. and get married again in the U.S. If your spouse is married while you get married to them, that is not allowed in the US. That's called bigamy. So they would have to get divorced before they can get married again in the US. So if they were not divorced from the first person, they cannot get married to the second person. Again, like I said, that is just not allowed in the US. Thank you for watching. Like I said, please share this with your community if you have found this helpful. If you are watching in the replay and you have questions, please feel free to put it in the comments, and I will continue answering them even after this live stream. So feel free to do that. So before I get to the next set of questions, I just want to get to the next go over the next two updates that I have, and then I will just focus on the questions from there. So speaking of citizenship, like we were before, the citizenship test is being changed. So they're going to make it a bit harder especially for the English reading and writing portion of the test. After December of this year, they're going to be introducing a new test. So if you apply for citizenship after December, just look forward to a different test that's going to be a bit harder when it comes to the English reading and writing portion. So that's just something to just keep in mind. Again, if you are planning on applying for citizenship or you qualify for citizenship, this is something, and your English is not the best, this might be something that you will find helpful, or that will make you want to apply for citizenship earlier. So just keep that in mind. And the next thing I have here is the public charge rule. So if you follow my page, if you don't, you should. Okay. If you don't follow my page already, you should definitely follow, just so you can get updates. The people that have followed my page, they knew when the public charge rule was suspended by the judge in New York. So basically, the public charge rule makes it so that USCIS and the consulates can deny a case for a green card if they feel that the person will end up needing some sort of government assistance within a few years of becoming a green card holder. Okay, so right now this is in limbo. We don't know if USCIS is going to, apply it, or if they're not. So right now, they are not applying it. They are not accepting the application, the form that, basically lets them know whether you will be a public charge or not. They're not accepting those forms. So anyone that's applying for a green card right now will not be required to include that public charge form or supporting documents to show that they will end up not becoming a public charge. So right now, like I said, it's in limbo. We don't know whether, you know, it hasn't gone through the full court process yet. So we don't know if it's going to end up being applied right away, if it's going to hold off until the pandemic is no longer an emergency situation in the US. But right now, what I can tell you is that we filed one in April while the public charge rule was in effect, and we did file it with the proper forms, and we have an interview coming up. So I'll be able to update you once we have that interview and see if they apply the rule or not, if they actually question my client on that form. So I will definitely keep you guys updated, because this is something that's been changing. Literally, the judge passed a rule one day, by the next week it kind of changed, and it's just something, like I said at the beginning of this, immigration law is constantly changing. Something that applies today might not apply tomorrow. So I always keep myself updated on what's going on, and make sure that you guys are updated as well. Another thing that I want to mention that I didn't put in one of my slides, but we have to cover this, okay? Asylum applicants. So if you come into the US and apply for asylum, typically you would be able to apply for a work authorization after 180 days, about that. But now you have to wait a whole year. So if you apply for asylum today, you won't be able to apply for a work authorization until a year from now. So that's a huge change from before. So before, like I said, you wait the 180 days and then you can apply for the work authorization. That's no longer the case anymore. That's another big change that actually happened August 25th. So again, things move quickly, but I try to keep you guys updated on those. Now, back to the questions, and they are coming in. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here. Please share this. Feel free to follow my page to stay updated on what's going on with immigration. And feel free to comment your questions. Even if you are watching this on the replay, I will go through and answer your questions. Okay. Let's see. I have a daughter that I didn't put on my document when. Can I apply for citizenship with no problem? I would suggest giving us a call. I did cover this earlier. This will become a problem. It just depends on your particular situation. If you included, if you disclose it at any other point, you might be able to overcome that. But that is something that I would really need to speak with you about to figure out the best way for you to move forward. The best way might be to not apply for citizenship. So I just want to let you know that, but we will see exactly what the options available to you are. Okay. Let's see. Mhm. So when is the embassy going to reopen? Unfortunately, we do not know. Depending on your specific country, it depends on a lot of different things. When the embassy reopens and feels safe for their staff, for their full staff to come back, when the country reopens, it really depends on the social distancing requirements of each country and each embassy. So it's completely embassy specific on this one, and we don't have a timeline at all. Can you do the application? Most embassies are not open and they're not accepting applications for a visiting visa. So it depends, like I said, it depends on the embassy. You can always go on the website and try to do that, but depending on the embassy, you will not be able to schedule an actual interview. So you might be able to put in the application, but you won't be able to schedule the interview. Can a U.S. citizen file for parents who lives in England without a status and has a current passport for their home country? Will he need to go back to his home country? So yeah, so that's really, can you file for a parent that lives in England without status? Yes, definitely yes. Like I said, the problem is going to be for the interview. If they do not have status in England, they might have to go to their home country for the interview. Typically, the embassy will require some sort of status in the country. Sometimes they do waive it, but whether you can apply or not, yes, you can definitely apply for them. Let's see. Gibson, thank you. You are in here helping. This is what I like to see, community. If you don't leave your child name in the file, what can you do to send for him? Again, this is I have a feeling this is a problem that's going to come up a lot, and I really want you to um, call my office because I would need to know exactly what your particular situation is, how old your child is. There might be options available to you, but we would have to really sit down and see what those are. But feel free to give us a call for that. Okay, so the same answer I gave before, Peter. We're waiting. We don't have an answer yet. We don't have an opening date yet for the embassies. Like I said, most of the African embassies are still not opening for anything but emergencies. So I would suggest, keeping an eye on the embassy's website. Like I said to the previous person, you can definitely apply for the DS-160, but can you actually schedule the interview? That's where it really comes in. Can you apply is one thing. Can you schedule the interview is something completely different. So that's where that's going to kind of be tricky, but we will keep an eye on that. Will this individual need to go back to his own country in order to obtain a visa? Let me just scroll up and see if I can find where. So it depends on, their status in the country. If the embassy there requires you to have legal status here, legal status there in order to have an interview there, that might be a requirement. Sometimes they just base it on your residence. So if your residence is in that country, then that's where they would schedule the interview for you. Okay. Okay. So yeah, feel free to, like I said, feel free to share this and let people know. I know a lot of people here are asking questions for other people, and I completely appreciate it. And I am happy to answer these questions. And feel free, like I said before, to share this with them as well. And thank you, Faith. Yes, this is my office phone number. Feel free to call or text. We are also on WhatsApp with this number. So you can message us on WhatsApp or call us on WhatsApp with this number as well. So we try to make it as accessible to people as possible, because I do have people that call me from other countries, and trying to, you know, WhatsApp is everyone's go-to thing for communication. So we are on WhatsApp with that phone number. So feel free to do that. Okay. So William asks, how can your auntie send for you when you are age of 25? So like I said before, if your auntie is a US citizen, they can only apply for their parents, siblings, children, fiance, and spouse. Like those are the only people they can apply for. Unfortunately, nieces and nephews are not under that. And because the person is already over 25, adoption is not an option at this point. However, there is still education. If they are willing to sponsor the person to go to school in the US, that is an option of how an aunt or an uncle can help in bringing someone to the US, is providing that sponsorship to pay for the education in the US. Let's see. What are the chances to get an F1 visa after being denied twice, considering the changes in the immigrant law? So it depends on the country the person is coming from and the reasons for the denial. That's really what what is going to depend on. If the denial is based on finances, what you're going to need to show is that you have the financial ability to cover your expenses. And that's going to be typically that's the biggest part of the F1 after the school, right? You need to get the I-20 and then be able to show the financial aspect. But if it was denied twice, I would need to know the reasons for the denial before I can actually make any guess of what you would need to provide to make for a better application the next time around, because that's what you really want to focus on at this point. If you plan on applying again, is making sure that your next application is as strong and powerful as possible, because you don't want to continue doing the same thing over and over. Can a US citizen obtain a social security number for a child had outside the US while on vacation? So, if the child is still outside the US, it depends how old the child is. If the child is under the age of 18, you would have to apply for the consulate abroad to basically register their birth with the US Embassy. So that's really the best way to do this. So you go to the US Embassy and register their birth with your and be able to apply for their passport as well. If they are in the US with you, you would have to you will have to show that they're a US citizen through applying for a passport or other if you meet those requirements, of course. But again, you just have to meet the requirements as a US citizen, having enough physical presence in the US in order to pass on your citizenship to the child. But definitely reach out. There might be things we can do to get that process moving along for you. So Sarah asks, if a child is in the US on visit, but due to some circumstances has stayed, how can they apply for residency under 10 years of age? Okay. So a child, if the person applying for them is a US citizen, so I'm guessing a parent applying for a child, if the parent is a US citizen, then they can apply for the child with the regular green card application process. The child will be able to apply for that in the US without having to leave the US to complete the process. If there's that's one option. If that is not an option, if the child doesn't have any family in the US, for example, they don't have parents in the US, there are other options that could be available, like the special immigrant juvenile option. But again, I would need more information, so I would suggest calling the office for us to definitely walk through that with you and see what options are available for that child. Okay, so Trixie asks, can I apply for a US visa while I'm not in my home country? Yes, you can, as long as you have some form of status in the country you're in. Most of the time, the embassies will not schedule an interview for you in the country you're in if you do not have some sort of status there to be in that country. So if you have a visiting status, if you have, if you're working there and you have some sort of visa, or if you're going to school there and you have some sort of visa, those are, that would allow you to be able to apply in that country. So let's see. Could a green card holder apply for fiancé visa? Unfortunately, fiancé visas are reserved for US citizens. Green card holders are not able to apply for a fiancé. So they will have to first become a US citizen before they can apply for a fiancé. Okay. So that is the last question. I hope I got everyone. I'm just going to go through, make sure I did not miss any questions. But feel free to put your questions in the comment. I'm going to hang on until, I'm going to go over everything again, all the updates one more time, and we're going to go off at 7:15, so 3 more minutes on this. And I, feel free to put your questions in the comments. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And I hope if you find this helpful, you share it with your community and you follow my page so that we can continue engaging and basically giving you information and building a community of immigrants that are learning and improving together. So I'm gonna just do a quick recap of all the points that I covered. First one being USCIS is doing interviews again. So if you have an application pending, just hold on. They will schedule that interview for you. Most embassies are still closed except for emergencies, but I will update you with each embassy openings just to keep you updated. Immigration fees are going up October 2nd. This is not a happy update, but it is an update that you need to know about. So citizenship applications are going up by over 80%. Okay, they are going up by 80%. So you really want to make sure that you get your applications in before October 2nd. So it has to be received by USCIS by October 2nd, okay? So don't wait till October 2nd and mail it in. It's not about the date that you mail it in, it's the date that they receive it. So keep that in mind. Marriage-based cases are going up by over $1,000. So this is the time to apply if you have been holding up. Public charge rule is still in limbo. We are going to keep updating you once we figure out what's going on with that. And then citizenship tests will get harder after December of this year. And then finally, the Finally, if you're applying for asylum after August 25th, just know you have to wait a whole year before you can apply for work authorization. This is a new rule. It wasn't like that before. Before, maybe you're waiting 150, 180 days before you apply. Now you have to wait an entire year from when you apply to be able to apply for to be able to apply for work authorization. Okay, so she's asked, is it possible to marry someone with an expired document and still be able to get them status? So if you are a U.S. citizen and you're married to someone that does not have proper documentation in the U.S., you are able to apply for them and you waive the fact that they either overstayed their visa. But if they came in, so you said expired document, which tells me that they came in with a visa. So if they came in with a visa and it expired, you can file for them in the U.S. So definitely, yes, it is possible. Let's see. When is it right? When is the right time to apply for citizenship? This November marked me 5 years in the US. So once you meet the requirements for citizenship, if November is your 5 year mark and you have been in the US for at least most of that 5 years, meaning like you travel outside of the US, but you come back within, a few months, less than 6 months of being out, then yes, you should be ready to apply relatively soon. We're in October. Ooh, we're in September, October. Yeah, you should be able to, depend on how many physical days you have been in the US, you should be able to apply now for citizenship. So feel free to give my office a call and I will definitely work with you on that to make sure you have the right number of days in the US. But like I said, as long as you meet that physical presence requirement, you are able to apply for citizenship now if November marks 5 years for you. So, okay, so that is all the questions that I have here. I am so happy for the engagement and just I look forward to the next live. We will be doing these more regular every other week on here. So feel free to continue to engage here. Like I said, follow my page so that you will get more information. We're also on Instagram, so feel free to do that if you use Instagram more than Facebook. I know some people do. Let's see, how can I apply, please? Is there a website? I'm not sure what you're applying for. So that might be something you want to clarify, but I'm not sure exactly what you are applying for. So feel free to explain or clarify in the comments and I will, like I said, I will continue responding. But I just want to thank you guys so much for being here, for engaging. If you want to give us a call and schedule a case evaluation, feel free to give us a call at 508-443-1788 and I will be happy to definitely help you in your immigration journey. So thank you. And like I said before, if you're watching in the replay, please feel free to still leave a comment and I will respond to you. Thank you. And if you're in the US, tomorrow is Labor Day. So I hope you have the day off and you enjoy your day with the family. So if you are, okay, I'm just going to answer this quickly and then I will close up. So citizenship, is their website. So if you are applying for citizenship on your own, I everything is on the uscis.gov. So if you, again, that's if you're applying for citizenship on your own. If you want my office to help you, the best thing to do is to give us a call at 508-443-1788, and we will help you with the entire application process. So thank you, everyone. Like I said, people in the US, have a great Labor Day, and I will see you guys on my next live. And thank you so much for hanging in there with me. Have a great night.